Television has a short list of shows that genuinely reshaped what American audiences expected from a weekly drama, and Bonanza sits near the top of that list. For 14 seasons, NBC's longest-running Western pulled millions of viewers into their living rooms every Sunday night, not because of the gunfights, but because of the family. The Cartwrights felt real, their arguments felt real, their loyalty felt real. But behind that warm, sun-drenched image of the Ponderosa ranch, something else was real too. The kind of behind-the-scenes tension that quietly tears a show apart from the inside. Cast members walked away, some were pushed out, and one, the most beloved of all, never came home. Today we're pulling back the curtain on what really happened when the stars of Bonanza started disappearing one by one from one of the most iconic westerns ever produced for American television. Bonanza first hit NBC's airwaves on September 12, 1959, and what it built over the next 14 years had no real precedent. By the time the final episode aired on January 16, 1973, the show had produced 431 episodes and cemented its place as the second longest-running Western in American network television history, trailing only CBS's Gunsmoke. Set in the 1860s near Virginia City, Nevada, the story followed the Cartwright family across the sprawling Ponderosa Ranch on the edge of Lake Tahoe. Lorne Green played Ben Cartwright, a widowed patriarch raising 3 sons from 3 entirely different marriages. Adam, the educated architect with an English mother, Hoss, the gentle giant of Swedish descent, and little Joe, the youngest and most impulsive, born of French Creole heritage. That diversity wasn't decoration. It gave the writers room to explore identity, morality, and what family actually means when people are different from each other in fundamental ways. Stephen Brigaglio, senior editor for TV Guide, put it plainly when he said Bonanza was the first drama to follow a family week to week through real emotional trouble, and that ambition is exactly what made it special, and exactly what made it difficult to sustain. Pernell Roberts had already earned serious respect on stage before Bonanza came calling. His 1955 Drama Desk Award for playing Macbeth off-Broadway had given him real credibility on the American theater circuit, and the role of Adam Cartwright, the oldest son in the Cartwright household, seemed like a logical next step. The trouble was that Roberts never saw television the way the network did. Playing the same character week after week wore him down steadily, and by the mid-1960s, that exhaustion had become something harder to manage quietly. He admitted in an interview with the Daily News Leader that he had sought medical help just to cope with the psychological weight of repetition. The character wasn't evolving, the creative horizon felt fixed, and Roberts reached a point where no paycheck could compensate for what he felt he was losing as an actor. After 6 seasons, he left in 1965, and Broadway came next, specifically Vincente Minnelli's production of Mata Hari, where critics praised Roberts even as the show itself collapsed around him. Several films followed, none of them memorable. Television eventually pulled him back through Trapper John M.D., a spin-off of MASH that ran 7 seasons and gave him the creative breathing room Bonanza never had. Roberts stepped away from acting entirely in 1997 and passed away in 2010 at 81. Dan Blocker came into the world at 14 pounds in Bowie County, Texas in 1928, reportedly the heaviest baby born in the county at the time, and that outsized physical presence defined him his entire life. Before Hollywood, he earned a master's degree in dramatic arts from Sul Ross State Teachers College, served as an infantry sergeant during the Korean War, and received the Purple Heart for wounds sustained in combat, something he almost never discussed publicly. What audiences knew was Hoss Cartwright, warm and enormous, and somehow the emotional center of a show full of strong personalities. In an interview with Cactus Pryor, Blocker once described the early seasons as a period where he genuinely dissolved into the role, becoming Hoss so completely that separating himself from the character took him until around the 5th season to accomplish. Once he figured it out, his daily routine became simple. Step into Hoss at 7 a.m., leave him at the studio when the workday ended, and that discipline was the foundation of one of the most beloved performances in the history of the Western genre on American television. What nobody expected was 1972. A routine gallbladder surgery ended with a post-operative pulmonary embolism, and Dan Blocker died at 43. Rather than recast the role or quietly retire the character, the producers made a decision that had never been made before in American television history and killed Hoss Cartwright on screen. Audiences felt it immediately, ratings felt it too, and both Lorne Green and Michael Landon said publicly that Bonanza was never the same show after losing him. In the 1988 television movie Bonanza, The Next Generation, writers finally explained the character's fate by revealing Hoss had drowned trying to save a woman's life, a fittingly selfless end for a man who had always lived that way. David Canary joined the series in its 9th season as Candy Canaday, foreman of the Ponderosa, and made his mark quickly. The character, as Canary explained in an interview with the Associated Press, had originally been conceived as a violent man, but that concept was softened in response to a cultural shift against on-screen aggression that was moving through television at the time. The gentler version of Candy turned out to be exactly right for audiences, and Canary brought sharpness and warmth to the role in equal measure, making the foreman feel like a true extension of the Cartwright family. His exit, when it came, had nothing to do with the story. Contract negotiations revealed the gap plainly. Michael Landon and Lorne Green had secured meaningful raises, while Canary was offered something considerably smaller, and rather than accept less than he believed he deserved, he walked. Producers responded by introducing new characters, including Griff King, played by Tim Matheson, and Jamie Cartwright, played by Mitch Vogel, but neither of them filled what Candy had left behind. Viewership began slipping, and many longtime fans traced the beginning of the end directly to this stretch of seasons. Canary returned 2 seasons later at Michael Landon's urging, following Dan Blocker's death, and closed out the series with 93 total appearances to his name. After Bonanza, he went on to play dual roles on the soap opera All My Children, portraying both Adam Chandler and Stuart Chandler, and that work earned him multiple Daytime Emmy Awards, while proving his range extended far beyond the frontier. Lorne Green was already a nationally known voice before audiences ever saw his face. Born Lionel Green in Ottawa, Canada in 1915, he trained at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art in London and later served as the chief news broadcaster for the CBC during World War II, earning the nickname the Voice of Canada for his deep and authoritative delivery. By the time Bonanza came along, that presence translated immediately to the screen, and Ben Cartwright became one of the defining television father figures of his generation. 14 seasons, every single episode, Green never missed one. Privately, by 1967, he was candid in an interview with reporter Bobby Wygant about feeling the pull of things he hadn't yet done, things he felt wouldn't wait indefinitely, but he stayed committed regardless until the final episode in 1973. Afterward, he recorded country music albums and landed a genuine surprise when Ringo, a spoken-word ballad released in 1964, reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. In 1978, he moved into science fiction as Commander Adama in the original Battlestar Galactica, found a new generation of fans, and proved that a man who had spent 14 years on horseback could command a starship just as convincingly. Green passed away on September 11, 1987, at 72, from complications following pneumonia after surgery for a bleeding ulcer. Michael Landon was 23 years old when Bonanza made him recognizable to millions, and he spent the decade that followed making sure it wasn't the last time. Born Eugene Maurice Orowitz in 1936 in Forest Hills, New York, he navigated a difficult childhood shaped by his mother's mental illness and a javelin scholarship to USC that ended in injury before he ever competed seriously. He picked his stage name from a phone book, appeared in the 1957 cult film I Was a Teenage Werewolf, and then found Little Joe Cartwright. Over time, Landon became one of the show's most active creative forces, writing and directing episodes while still acting in them, which was rare for someone his age at the time. After Bonanza ended in 1973, he built 2 more beloved franchises with Little House on the Prairie and Highway to Heaven, running loyal sets and earning a reputation for genuine care toward his cast and crew. Pancreatic cancer ended his life in 1991 at only 54, and the grief from fans across American television was immediate and lasting. Ray Teal had logged over 300 film and television credits before joining Bonanza as Sheriff Roy Coffey, having appeared in westerns including Colt 45, Empire, and The Everglades across a career that stretched back decades. His performances never chased the spotlight, but they grounded every scene around him, and that quiet dependability gave the series depth alongside its more energetic characters. Teal passed away in April 1976 at 74. Guy Williams, the charismatic actor who had made his name playing Zorro in the iconic Disney series, stepped into Bonanza after Pernell Roberts left, taking on the role of Will Cartwright, Ben's nephew. Tension reportedly developed behind the scenes, with accounts suggesting Michael Landon felt crowded by Williams's rising popularity, and Williams was written out after only a few episodes. He moved on to play Professor John Robinson on Lost in Space, retired to Argentina in 1979, where locals adored him as Zorro, and died there in 1989 from a brain aneurysm. Victor Sen Young, who played Hop Sing throughout the entire run of the series, brought warmth and wit to a role that could easily have been reduced to caricature in less careful hands. Born in San Francisco in 1915 to Chinese immigrant parents, he had built his earlier career playing Jimmy Chan in the Charlie Chan film series before finding something longer lasting on the Ponderosa. Away from the set, he was passionate about food and Chinese cuisine, channeling that passion into the Great Wok cookbook and bringing Chinese recipes into American kitchens long before fusion cooking became fashionable. In 1972, he survived being shot during a commercial airline hijacking, and he passed away in 1980 from accidental natural gas poisoning at home, leaving behind a legacy that reflected grace and perseverance in equal measure. Bonanza was never just a Western. It was a show about what holds people together when everything around them is uncertain. And the quiet irony is that the same pressures eventually pulled its own cast apart season by season. The departures, the deaths, the quiet exits, and the salary disputes, all of it shaped what the show became over those 14 years. And the fact that audiences are still talking about the Cartwrights more than 50 years after the final episode says everything about what that family and those actors meant to the history of American television.